Hey, it's Codex here. I'm here with What If Naruto Was in the Anbu Part 3. You guys hit the like button. I didn't get to pre-record this because I was really busy today. I've been working hard on this channel and you guys have been showing a lot of support back. So I appreciate that you guys show the same energy. Um, yeah. Um, get this to 25 likes for the next part, and please drop a like and comment down below. If you don't have anything to comment Q. That would be much appreciated. It helps the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, I won't talk for too long. Let's get into the story. Located in the heart of Fire Country, Konoha was regarded as the largest military and economic power within all of the elemental countries. Boasting of a shinobi population of over 10,000, Konoha served not only as a military force but one of primary driving forces of Konoha's country, the elemental countries. Fire Country's economy. Clients from the land of fire and beyond highly valued the work ethic and efficiency of Konoha shinobi, and live shinobi were the first choice by many when a task needed to be done. Each day, hundreds of shinobi teams would leave and return to the village to complete missions. The majority of these were made up of C and D rank missions suitable for Konoha's well-trained and diverse field of chunin and genin. For the most part, clients visiting Konoha would be directed to the mission assignment desk located in the administrative section of the academy. There, a chunin would take down the mission's details, organize teams to complete said mission, and accept payment. It was a well-oiled machine that made use of the vast majority of rank and shinobi shinobi. Failed graduates of the Shinobi Academy usually found themselves in bureaucratic positions or acting as messengers, while the average Chunin team would complete the vast majority of the missions. While it wasn't as glamorous as the high-risk and dangerous missions handed out at the Hokage's Tower to the elite, these jobs generated a large percent of the Konoha's revenue and were seen as vital to village prosperity. It was for that reason that Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves, would often leave the Hokage Tower and direct many of the mission personally. Not only was he able to meet the clients, many who were suitably impressed by the infamous god of shinobi, but it gave him a chance to work with the average shinobi that generally would not get a chance to interact with their leader. As the Hokage's personal guard and assistant, Uzumaki Naruto would usually accompany him. Between filling reports, meeting with clients, scheduling meetings, and even assigning missions, the young Anbu agent received his share of Konoha's bureaucratic judgment with not-so-quiet dignity. Sarutobi puffed happily on his pipe as he adjusted the conical hat on his head, a white cloak draped over his red full-length gown. He sat at the head of a large wooden table on one of many. Around him, scores of chunins hustled busily, taking down mission details, referring clients to other chunin and bounding paperwork to be sorted and filled. Teams of ninja would occasionally enter, greet their client, and leave. It was an efficient system first started by the second Hokage and continued by his successor. My lord, Hokage, greeted an enthusiastic man. He was rather round and large, with the strange curly hairstyle favored by the nobles of the fire court. Your health appears well. Sarutobi puffed once more and removed the pipe from his lip, the predominant lines under his eyes curving up as he smiled. Greetings, Lord Shinji, he replies back. He coughed once into his head. How may our village assist you today? I require a team of your best spies, Shinji replied as his face darkened. He leaned forward, his eyes furtively darting around the room. I think you know who is going to make his move. I must have accurate intelligence if I am to encounter. I see, Saratobi murmured, stroking his small goatee. Then the contracts from the land of tea have not yet been finalized. Soon, Shinji said, frowning. He rubbed his hands on his fine clothes. With your help, of course. I recommend that you go and see Nara Ren and give him your details, Saratobi said. We shall, of course, provide you with some of our finest tuning. Excellent. Shinobi bowed deeply. My thanks, Hokage. Saratobi smiled and moved his pipe back in his mouth as the portly noble walked off. He puffed a few more times, his eyes flickering to his right. Ferret, he barked. There was a crash of paper and a cry of dismay. Naruto, clad in his sleeveless armor, Anbu tattoo bared for the world to see, had been startled and lost his grip on the large stack of paperwork he had been carefully balancing. Scrolls and paperwork went flying and fell to the ground in a huge mess, leaving a despondent Anbu. Pick up the mess this instant, Saratobi grunted. This is the center of Konoha's business, not rubbish heap. Naruto began scooping up the paper from the floor. Saratobi watched with keen eyes. Remember, he said as Naruto began to load his arms again. Many short trips will make light work of one hard task. Naruto grunted something under his breath as he dropped a stack of scrolls on the table. They formed a messy pile as the tunings around him ignored him with well-practiced ease. With a single handteen, two more Naruto shimmered into existence around him, and together the three of them picked up the rest of the scrolls. They flickered and disappeared from Saratobi as Saratobi went back to puffing on his pipe happily. Ferret, he commanded after a few moments and couldn't stop the small smile that curved the corner of his lip as Naruto returned in a flash, responding to his summon with all due haste. Malice practically radiated from the kneeling blonde as Saratobi lifted a hand and pointed. You forgot one. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Naruto responded between gritted teeth. In a flash of movement, he took off the offending scroll and disappeared again. Saratobi waited a little longer this time. Ferret, he barked. The two nearest tunings were watching with amusement, interested as Naruto reappeared again. A cloud of smoke signifying his appearance as his control slipped, probably due to his annoyance. Yes, sir, Naruto spat out. Your laces are undone, Saratobi said. He nodded sagely. Remember, you will never overcome large hurdles when the smallest of obstacles threaten to entangle you. Beginning your pardon, sir, Naruto said with forced politeness, but I'm wearing sandals. Oh, Saratobi uttered. He paused, thoughtfully puffing on his pipe. Well then, never mind. He dismissed Naruto with a wave of his hand. Hurry up. Those scrolls will not follow themselves. A loud pop roared through the room, startling clients and tunings alike as Naruto disappeared with a loud cloud of smoke on the sound of grating his teeth. Several of the other shinobi were snickering and even Saratobi was outright chuckling. The third Hokage, good mood, abruptly vanished, however, as he felt a familiar presence approaching him. His face smoothed over as he drew himself up, making his slight puzzlement with well-practiced ease. Out of the busy room, he was undoubtedly one of the only ones who saw the man enter, sliding between clients and shinobi effortlessly and making his way towards Saratobi. By the way, I just want to say, this is not in the story. Saratobi is kind of an asshole in here, like, damn. Jeez, bro. I like this view, like, Naruto has emotions. Like, all the other people I've seen done this, they make him Naruto this emotionless character, which Naruto just isn't. And this is like, this just makes a comedic view. And yeah, Danzo, Saratobi said as a way of a greeting. What brings you to the mission assignment desk? Danzo Shimaru inclined his head respectfully. He leaned heavily on his cane, his right arm done up in a sling and his torso heavily bandaged. Despite his apparent physical injuries, his chakra was sharp and potent. His one single eye betrayed his appearance as a crippled age and scarred as he was. Danzo was still a warrior at heart, despite his retirement as head of the Special Anbu Division Root. Trailing after him was a young boy with jet black hair, pale skin, and dark eyes. Hokage-sama. Danzo greeted and raised his head. I was merely showing my latest student around Konoha's areas of importance. Your latest student? Sarutobi repeated quietly. Of course, Danzo said without any emotion. There are still those who regard my skills quite highly. It's an art to pass on what I have to the next generation. Sarutobi grunted at that. Ferret, he barked. This time Naruto appeared by his side flawlessly, his face hidden by his Anbu mask. The young bodyguard had undoubtedly felt the familiar chakra as well, and after several years in Sarutobi's service, knew that Danzo was somebody not to be trifled with. So that's, Danzo trailed off, a thoughtless expression flittering over his face. It was hard to read the emotions of a man who had half his face covered in thick bandages. We meet again, Elder Naruto. Naruto greeted coolly. He turned and bowed deep to Sarutobi. How may I serve you, Hokage-sama? Could you please prepare a small room so that Danzo and I may catch up? Sarutobi requested quietly. He stood up, his white cloak fluttering as he moved. We shall be there shortly. At once, Naruto responded and disappeared. A few minutes later, Sarutobi and Danzo adjourned to a more private setting. Naruto had done well, Sarutobi absently thought, as both he and Danzo took a seat at a long, highly polished wooden table. Naruto was nearby, quietly preparing a steaming pot of tea, while Danzo, latest student, stood behind his tutor. And what would your name be? Sarutobi inquired gently, puffing on his pipe and eyeing the pale boy shrewdly. He looked to be Naruto's age, but the third Hokage could see that the leanness of muscle displayed, the unnatural attention that the boy paid to movement, and perfect balance that he seems to have. The boy's smile was horrific, as bland and empty as a corpse. I am called Sai, he said. He bowed his head, not a hair, a fraction out of place. It's an honor to meet you, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi grunted. I'm sure he told you to say that, he replied, feeling irritable all of a sudden. Fair, where's my tea? I will be there momentarily, Hokage-sama. Naruto replied evenly, his back facing the table as he bent down, focused on his work. If I may, Hokage-sama, Danzo requested and leaned forward. I would like a demonstration. Oh, Sarutobi raised an eyebrow. Of what exactly? Danzo smiled. In a flash of movement, Sai lunged at Sarutobi with speed far beyond those of his age level. A sword appeared in his hand as he streaked across the long wooden table in the span of a heartbeat. Deadly intent flashed through the room, and Sarutobi's eyes widened fractionally as he read the young man's eyes. There was no doubt, the boy was aiming to kill. His attack lasted a whole 2 seconds, and he didn't even make it halfway across the table. Naruto was there to meet him. The masked Anbu suddenly radiating a terrible aura of power. Dark, heavy, and oppressing chakra flooded the room. The wooden table began to crack, and the rack of saucers and cups rattled. The swords met kunai, and the two young boys locked arms. Despite his emotionless face, Sarutobi could read the surprise in his would-be assassination movement. As for more, Naruto suddenly surrounded him. Blank-faced Anbu mask peered down at the would-be attacker with no mercy, and kunai lashed out a vital point. The young boy immediately jumped back, Naruto's kunai only barely missing the killing blow. His blood splattered across the table, and Naruto followed up with a devastating kick that launched Sai away from the Hokage. He flew down the table and past Danzo, who didn't even look, ruffled as his apprentice slammed into the wall with a dull thump. All 5 Narutos in the process of weaving through handsaws when Sarutobi raised a hand. Enough, he murmured. Naruto paused, angry dark chakra whirling around him. Naruto, leave us. Boss, Naruto protested. I am not so weak that I need you to fight my battles, Sarutobi snapped. He snapped his fingers, and Naruto reluctantly backed down, the shadow clones shimmering from existence, the heavy pressure abruptly vanishing from the room. Take your young foolish attacker to the medical center. Sarutobi could tell that Naruto was absolutely furious with the order, but if there was one thing that Naruto had learned after 5 years working with the third Hokage, it was that the old man did not like to repeat himself. Naruto walked over to blood-splattered side, hoisted his body over his shoulder with some effort, and disappeared. What ominous chakra, Danzo murmured. He stood, limping his way across the table towards the pot of tea. With a single deft hand, the crippled elderly flawlessly continued on from where Naruto had left off and handed Sarutobi a cup of steaming tea. I haven't felt chakra like that since you were a child, Hiruzen. Sarutobi grunted and tucked his pipe inside his robes. Naruto has potential, was all he said as he took a sip. He's quite talented. That's an understatement, Danzo said with a dry chuckle. With a cup of tea balanced on the back of his hand, he leaned on his walking stick and made his way to the other end of the table. Both men ignored the large crack and dripping blood in the middle of the table. He is very impressive for a child so young. I can only think of a few who showed such potential at his age. Kakashi, Sarutobi replied. Itachi, Orochimaru, Sakumo. Yourself, Danzo countered. He leaned his walking stick against the table and sipped his tea. I would suggest that he's more like you than the others. The chakra was very much like yours during your early years when you struggled to find control, and he is not burdened with the broken bond of family as many of those other names were. He carries his burden well, Sarutobi admitted. There was no mistaking the pride in his voice. He is strong and quick to learn. He does not have arrogance, Danzo said quietly, and Sarutobi stilled. Kakashi or Orochimaru, they were both arrogant. It took a tragedy to break Kakashi, and Orochimaru never lost his. Sarutobi let out a snort of laughter. Naruto is too busy cleaning up after his mistakes to worry about his status, he said, chuckling. He can be a clumsy boy, foolish at times. Very foolish, Danzo agreed, taking another sip. What young shinobi use the god of shinobi as measuring stick against his skills? To compare himself to such a man, it would keep any shinobi level-headed. The two sat in comfortable silence, sipping their tea. I must say, Danzo murmured after a few moments, Uzumaki Naruto has many of the qualities of an aspiring Hokage. Sarutobi said nothing. Danzo uttered and closed his eyes. He bowed his head, looking in deep thought. I see. Partially, Sarutobi supplied and saw the first glimmer of a frown on his one-time rival's face. You have become most insufferable as of late, Hiruzen, Danzo said, setting down his now empty cup of tea. That boy has helped sharpen your blade, a far cry of who you were 10 years ago. He stood up, taking his cane. My advice to an old friend would be thus: don't ever slip back to what you once were. Is that so? Sarutobi replied quietly. His brown eyes watched Danzo carefully. That's very interesting advice. I would say useful, Danzo replied. His one eye hardened as he gazed down at the man who had beaten him to the hat. I will always do what's best for the village that we both love so much. As do I, said Sarutobi softly. Good, Danzo said abruptly. Continue to do so. The will of fire rests upon your shoulders. He turned around and began to limp out the door, leaving the third staring at nothing in particular, deep in thought. Naruto returned a few moments later. Hokage-sama, he inquired. He paused as the old man did not reply. Boss? The concern in his voice was evident. What's wrong? Sarutobi blinked. What's wrong? He repeated. His arm rose and he lashed out at Naruto, sending the masked blonde by soaring through the air. Why is there a mess on this table? What's with the crack? Ferret, attend to your duties. Aw, Naruto groaned as he pulled himself free from the plaster and out of the wall that the third Hokage had just sent him flying into. You old bastard, he took his fist. Don't get angry with me, boy, Sarutobi yelled as the fire returned to his veins. He glared at Naruto. You just put a hole in my wall. Explain yourself. What? Huh? But you... Naruto trailed off and a round of indigent sputters as the third abruptly whacked his head again. Alright, he groaned, rubbing his abused head. I'll clean up, you wrinkled old slave driver. What was that? Sarutobi thundered. Nothing. Sarutobi watched Naruto carefully as the young assistant began to frantically clean up the room. A smile flashed across his face, but it disappeared as soon as it came, and the third picked up his cup of tea and began to sip it between scoldings. That was part 3, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and get this to 25 likes. For the next part, comment Q or any other comment that you might have, and I hope you all have a great day. Go to bed. All right, bye.